So my name's Milovsorov and I'm a painter. I'm based in Wolverhampton at Eagleworks on top of the Manda Centre. Eagleworks is an artist collective of studios that collaborate and have group shows. So I went to art school at the School of Art in Birmingham, and following that, make paintings. I do portraits, landscapes, still life. I try to kind of cover a variety of media. At the moment, I've been focused a lot on landscape after doing a challenge for the whole month of January. Yeah, so with this challenge, it was to do a painting, a fresh painting every day for the entire month of January, all outdoor, all from life. And it was a real challenge given the weather change, and unfortunately I fell ill towards the end of it, but I was able to manage a lot of days consecutively where you end up learning a lot because you're able to follow on the previous day, whatever went wrong. Following day you can try and focus on that in the next painting. It's all very spontaneous, not trying to overthink where you want to paint, just kind of reacting to what you see. So the style that I'm interested in getting better at is knowing where to use refined kind of painting and where to keep it very loose, kind of the way that we perceive the world. Things are in focus and other things are in the periphery, they're blurry. And so using that technique to make things feel real without having to kind of hyper-define the entire picture. And so making the decision as an artist, knowing this is what I want the eye to go to of the viewer, this is less important, and so being able to play with that in the type of brushwork that you use is something that I definitely improved at during this challenge. The artwork that I've chose from the collection is The Ford by Alfred James Munnings. So I picked this painting. When I come to the gallery, there are many paintings that I like, but I always pay this one a visit because it most exemplifies what it is that I'm trying to really get better at as a painter, which is something I previously mentioned, that use of tight brushwork where the artist wants to direct the eye, and then the loose brushwork where things aren't as important, and so the eye doesn't need to linger there. I also like it because the compositional choices that he uses are very effective. He uses the kind of sweeping S-curve to draw the eye back and create a sense of space in the picture plane. And then the third tool that I notice is the use of the strong saturated colour in the scarves of the two men one in the foreground, one in the midground. Because the attention first goes to the horses, I feel, and so in order for the artist wants the viewer to be drawn to the men. And how do you do that? When in a quite muted and muddy painting, to have this strong saturation right at the neck of the man, it kind of draws your eye right in. And so all of these things are kind of conscious choices that I think are very well put together. But with the introduction of photography, people would take a photo and it would feel very kind of candid and something slightly cropped up. And so painters like Degas and they would use that technique for it to feel almost a bit more real, like it's just been caught and that person's just coming into frame. And there were exceptions. People like Velázquez would do it as well, like back in the 1600s. So it's not a new technique, but with the advent of photography, it became a more common thing. And so Munnings has kind of used that with that horse on the right, where it does feel almost like you've just kind of turned your head into this scene. And yet that makes you wonder whether he did use photography as to help, because it's not that it's impossible to paint at that scale outside, but it's far more of a challenge. So traditionally you would do your smaller kind of studies from life and then do the large painting from the studio, and so with photography it would have definitely been an assist to that. But yeah, the choice of subject matter is quite an interesting one, as at this time there's a great deal of industry becoming more of especially towards city centres, there's going to be subjects that are far more focused on that, whereas he chooses to go with something very almost timeless in terms of this could be 100 years prior to when it was painted, and so it's kind of like a harkening back to simpler times. And he was a painter of the British landscape, British life, and so maybe there's kind of a wanting to not lose the purity of how life once was, which is something that I am definitely interested in as the world changes, kind of what's worth holding on to, and what's okay to say, okay, this is the way that we live now, and that's fine for us to live that way, but some things are worth keeping. It's interesting because when I hear myself speak, I can hear it slightly, but I think my mum never wanted me to have a Wolverhampton accent, black country accent, and so when I was young she would always correct me, say at the dinner table when I'd say something, and she would say, no, it's like this, it's not like this, and so that was always, it's funny to think about, because I think I probably have just a hint of an accent. Yeah, I can't think how many years I've been visiting. Well, since I was a child, I remember coming to the gallery, but as I developed a stronger interest in art, I would come here to look at the work, and because you can never beat seeing a painting in person, no matter whether it's the best paintings in the world or just any kind of professional level painting. Being able to see it in person always is greater than looking at photos. Just you're able to get as close as you possibly can, as long as there's not a rope to cut you off. But that's the thing that you find with painters, where we get really close, almost obnoxiously close, just because we want to learn as much as we can from the people that came before us, because unfortunately there's been a kind of severing of the tradition, which a lot of painters are trying to rediscover a lot of the techniques that may have been lost, and so we've got to, whenever we get the chance, we see a great painting, we've got to just try and learn what we can from it, and add an extra tool to our tool belt when it comes to problem solving of painting. I definitely like to get close to it, but I think these kind of paintings are also they're just as effective from a distance, because it's what I said earlier, that he knows exactly how much detail he needs to put in for it to read as real, and that's the more that I learn, you don't need a real detailed face for it to look like a real face, but you need to know what it is that makes that face look real. And so my favourite painter is Diego Velázquez, because he was the best that I've ever seen at being able to take nature and kind of economise it or distill it down to its essence, and say this is what's needed for it to feel real, and not look real, but feel. And so you see that and you go, that nothing feels more real than what he painted just there. Mm-hmm. So after this month-long painting challenge, I plan to keep up the practice of plein air painting, maybe not quite as intensively, every single day, but regularly enough that I'm able to keep building on the progress of each day. And so at the moment I plan to do every Tuesday at 11 a.m. meeting by the Man on the Horse statue. And we've got a small group of painters that come to those sessions, and so it would be nice to expand that in the future.